Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, fire me before I quit? I ruin your life. Shit talker banned for being too young. Son keeps kicking the back of my seat while in a flight, my dad gets his revenge. Before we get into today's episode, remember to subscribe so you never miss a video. So let's get started. Fire me before I quit? I ruin your life. Since I'm still in school, I took a job at a bakery of types which I won't name. The place has bread in the name but also sells overpriced salads and sandwiches. I worked there for close to a year where I had this boss named Betty, not her real name of course. Betty and I didn't get along whatsoever. She had gotten the previous general manager to quit because she had an affair with him and she threatened to tell his wife if he didn't leave. He quickly left the job and she was promoted to the position. I didn't like her, but I have to respect the dedication to be the general manager of a small-ass store. When I first started working there I was respectful, but she would do things that would get on my nerves. For instance, I would clean all the places I would be hired to do, and once I was done and relaxed for maybe 5 minutes she would run out of the manager's office screeching, "Why aren't you working?" I would tell her of course I did my job, and as a cashier if nobody is there to help then I didn't have anything to do. She would glare at me, then I would see her, accidentally, drop an entire pot of brewed coffee onto my freshly mopped floor for me to clean. So I learned quickly to always look busy. Once she realized I was going to kneel and kiss the ground she walked on, she started dropping my hours. The store ran on a Game of Thrones type politics for who got promotions and raises. Somehow all her friends were managers and would bully the rest of us. She was barely at work. She would drive to my job clock just in case corporate decided to check her hours. So she was essentially stealing hours. When you clocked in it printed out a small piece of paper telling when you clocked in. She would just drop them on the floor for me to clean up. I would usually pick them up and stick them into a pocket. So this led to me finding Betty clock in and out stubs in my pocket at my house. This will be important for later. Did I mention she was super racist? She was white and the most of the staff were my fellow high school peers who were all mostly POC. One day at work she walked out and told us, "When you're on the clock I own you." When we all reacted to look at her she backpedaled and was like, "I didn't mean it like that." This will be important for later. So after a while I got sick of practically begging for hours, so I went to my current job. But decided I merely wanted to drop my hours, which were already barely a day a week. But suddenly when I got my new job, she scheduled me every single day of an entire week. She never did that even when we were on semi-good terms. So I obviously told her I had a new job and couldn't do this. After that I went home and called my friend who was still working there to tell him I was going to quit tomorrow. He has a bad habit of putting his phone on speaker when he's cleaning at work. So Betty overheard this obviously. The next day I walk in and go through the respectful motions of saying, "Thank you for the opportunity and blah blah blah." Betty let me get through the entire speech before she said, "Oh yay, I was meaning to tell you. You're fired." I was so blindsided and pissed I cussed her out. My mom raised me to treat women with respect, but this fucking fat overweight hippo-looking bitch pissed me TF off. She's the type of girl to think binge eating was a personality trait. So I left and was mad about being fired before I could quit, but didn't push the issue. I'm only 18 and I already had another job. I wasn't expecting Betty to give me a good reference anyway. I would have completely left it alone if it wasn't for the district manager Ben, not real name, texting me. The revenge. He thought I was still working there, so I explained to him I was fired. He was stunned due to the fact that I was a decent employee. He asked why she let me go and I explained it to him and he was angry. He clarified that she fired me before I quit and I said yes. He was pissed that she did this and asked if there was anything else she might have done. I kind of just vented to him for a bit. When I told him about the racist remark he asked if anyone else would collaborate with me. I forgot to mention that she slowly fired and forced people to quit and replaced them with her friends and family. Which according to company policy she couldn't do. Something about conflict of interest. I asked all the people who were working that day if they could and a few said they would say they did. But one did even better. My one coworker Andy is convinced he's the next big vlogger, so he always has his phone out or just using audio recording for hours for a chance to catch a funny clip. I've watched his content and let me say it's just super cringe. But turns out he labels each recording by the day and times. So when he checked, he found her making racist remarks. I got a brilliant idea, and with my other fired or co-workers forced to quit, we decided to scour Andy's recordings. We found some great moments of Betty saying controversial things or just being nasty. Like once a guest sneezed on the baked pastries, and when a coworker told her, she laughed it off and said nobody would know. But this wasn't enough for me. I try to avoid conflict, but when I'm in a situation I'll follow it through. I looked her up on Facebook and found out she was married. Nobody knew this, so when she had the affair with the other manager and basically blackmailed him, she was also married and cheating. I don't think anyone ever cared enough to find out because she was a nasty old lady. So I found the old manager's Mark Facebook and found out he and his wife were separated. Turns out even after he quit, Betty was still trying to blackmail money out of him. When he didn't, she told his wife anyway, causing his wife to divorce him and basically leave him to go back to live with his parents. I did some research, and in my state, blackmail or extortion is a third-degree penalty, which has a max of 7 years in prison with a fine over $10,000 to the victim. So I told the old manager what my plan was for her. He agreed to call the cops on her, but I asked if he'd wait until I finished my part first. He said he'd give me a week. So I met with District Manager Ben and showed him all our evidence. The recordings and the written statements from my other ex-coworkers and people who were still working there. I also gave Ben the slips of paper when Betty clocked in and then left and returned 8 to 10 hours later to clock out. Ben thanked me for the information and then I left. A few days later, while walking past the store, I noticed it was closed in the middle of the day. I texted a guy who still worked there and he told me everything. Turns out Ben first checked the security cameras to see if she was there for the full time she claimed to be. Big surprise, she wasn't. So Ben decided to investigate the store's expenses, since if she's lying about her time, what else could she be stealing? He found out she was stealing money from the store. The guy didn't fully explain how she was, but just that she was. Turns out she was breaking a lot of health and safety codes and used the money for repairs and etc. for herself. So she was fired immediately along with all of her minions, and that left barely anybody to run the store. They shut down to clean up the store and fix things she didn't make. So she's out of a job, and Mark told her husband with photo proof, granny nudes IKU, that she cheated on him. But Mark phrased it so it seemed like she still was. So Betty's husband flips out and decides to divorce her, and Betty is the type to post everything on Facebook. So she's begging someone to let her stay, but all of her friends and family totally bailed on her. So she was living in her car looking for a job. That's when Mark decides to sue her for extortion, so she scrambles to find a lawyer, and to make it even worse, the company decided to sue her for all the money she's stolen plus all the repairs and lost revenue while the store is closed. Betty's life is shit. She had to sell her car for drastically under what it's worth to pay for all the legal trouble. Mark told me bits and pieces of her crying in the courtroom, but not too much. I was never super close with him. Last I heard of Betty is she was living with her sister, who definitely hates her. To think she would have avoided all of this if she just let me quit. Shit talker banned for being too young. This happened around 5/6 of a month ago, but I was playing Roblox with my little cousin, who was in kindergarten, and we were playing Mad Paintball, which is a cartoony paintball game. Anyway, another player joins who I will refer to as Saint for shit talker. Saint talks some shit, but nothing bad, just blaming lag, calling people noobs, pretty tame stuff. However, things went south 2 matches in when Free for All was selected as the game mode. The thing about Free for All, and big paintball in general, is that spawn trapping is fairly easy to do. Spawn flipping is also very poor in this game. We're about halfway through the match and my cousin kept spawn killing Street. Street starts to name call and then starts laying into her really hard, calling her a thought whore, telling her to get back into the kitchen, telling her to suck a dick, just being an asshole. Thankfully her parents have chat disabled on her account, so she wasn't seeing anything. However, I sadly saw everything and I got protective. I called Street out, who then started laying into me. The saying goes, talk shit, get hit, and I ended up winning the FFA match. I posted screenshots of the match results in the Big Paintball Discord. For those who don't know, Discord is a chat room service designed specifically for gaming, and I left the game shortly after. An hour later I checked Discord to clear out notifications when I see that I got a DM from someone I didn't know. Turns out Street was also in the Discord and was saying how they were banging my mom and stuff you'd hear in 2011 COD lobby. I jokingly called them a 13-year-old and they responded by saying what is now one of my favorite self-roasts, "Dude, such a dumbass, I am actually 11. Well, it's against Discord's to have an account and be under 13 years old. I reported them to Discord and just moved on from the situation. A couple days later my DMs with them were gone and I couldn't find them in the Mad Paintball server. I can only assume they got their Discord account shut down. In all honesty, I sort of regret reporting them. They're just any other kid growing up on the internet, but I also realize how unsafe Discord can be for young people. Son keeps kicking the back of my seat while in a flight, my dad gets his revenge. Obligatory. Sorry for formatting, I'm on mobile. This was a few years ago, when my dad and I, 14F, were on a flight back home from India. Behind us there was a family of 3, with their son behind me, and the mum behind my dad. It was a nighttime flight and everyone was beat. It was also a small, budget airlines with not much leg room. About 10 minutes into the flight, the kid behind me starts kicking my seat. To be clear, he wasn't very little, maybe 9 or 10. I let my dad know and he politely asks him to stop, and he does, for about 10 seconds. We tell him again, more firmly this time, but no luck. This is where the revenge starts. My dad reclines his seat as much as he can and when they ask him to put it up he doesn't. They call the flight attendant, FA, and the jerk dad, JD, talks to him. JD, this man put his seat down, and my wife is uncomfortable. FA, while talking to my dad, would you like to keep it down? My dad, yes please. FA, well then, he can if he wants to. That's not his problem. Have a nice flight. He walks away with the dad left spluttering and cursing under his breath. Fun times. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.